Hello. Welcome to the Get At Gaming podcast. I am one of your hosts, Alex, and joining me as always is Ben. Ben, how's it going?
I still have children, so I'm tired all the time.
Oof. But as if you're a video watcher, I almost said video listener. If you're a video watcher, seeing us on youtube.com and you search for Get At Gaming on there, you can see we have a special guest below. Special guest, who are you? What do you want to talk about? What's happening today?
Yeah, my name is Patrick, and I host a podcast of my very own called RPGaymer with my best friend from California. We were just two bros who met each other in college and decided 10 years after we graduated that we want to stay connected in some way. So we started with a little podcast that evolved into a full YouTube channel, and we stream together and talk about everything video games.
That's awesome.
And not because you're a guest, but I did listen to the podcast. I love it. It reminds me.
Oh no, it's trash. You're being too kind. No, just joking.
It really does remind me of back when Greg was doing a podcast Beyond, how like it would just be a good conversation.
It's kind of how we modeled it. Yeah, we've always talked about games, so we were like, why not just kind of put it out in the ether and see what it catches, because it's just so easy and natural to talk about something that you like. So we really just like to go really deep and hard and rough into some topics.
Well, sounds like a preview for bowl. Not that I would know, but I have a 16-year-old boy, so you know. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Glad to hear that. Again, this is the Get At Gaming podcast plus Get At Gaming plus podcast where we talk about everything, video games, nerdy, whatever. Because again, it is better if you talk about something that you're passionate about, and you get a better conversation out of that. So today, we decided to talk about our top 5 in no particular order. Was it PlayStation RPGs? Was that what you said? Okay, yeah, that's what I did. I wanted to make sure. Where's the RPG?
Oh no!
You did RPGs?
I was told just RPGs. I just did RPGs in general. I've already failed.
Okay.
This wouldn't happen on RPGaymer. No.
Well, welcome to the Get Out of Gaming podcast. Well, it's okay because I have games on here that were not specifically to any console. So
mine are all specific, but it's fine.
Yeah. Well, and
it doesn't matter.
Just so you know, Patrick, when we do these, Alex is the overachiever because he's got like actual props.
Oh, they're all here. They're all here right now.
Oh, fun.
I have no props because I don't. This is the nice in my room. This is where the nice stuff is kept. Everything else, it's not nice. So,
props to Alex.
Yeah, Alex is really the reason why this podcast goes on with no hitches because, yeah. So
you're too kind. I will say, like for example, like this is a green screen, so like this isn't even like really. This isn't.
We call it. It's magic.
It's movie
magic behind you.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't just reach something off of the shelf. I can't just reach that Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 3. But I can't just reach that. That's my living room though. But anyway, yeah, otherwise that shelf would probably be the top whatever if I personally ended up doing that. But I feel like we've kind of done at least to some extent, whenever I talk about my top games, it tends to be mostly RPGs. So this was actually good to limit my scope for this thing. But yeah, I guess let's get at it. Let's go into it. Patrick, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I mean, I can try and work the just PlayStation angle.
You don't have to. I mean, you're a guest. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever Ben told you and messed up.
This one's totally on me because I thought
I have the receipts. The receipts say RPG. The Facebook messages.
Yeah, that's on me totally.
I really wanted to go as broad as possible when I thought about this, and I put way too much thought into this because it's kind of what I do. So the first one I think I'm gonna start with it's probably the most recent game on my list, and I would say I think Dragon Quest 11 is probably one of the best RPGs I've ever played in my entire life. It's
Okay.
just incredible.
All right.
Questions, comments, concerns,
Well, no,
class.
Well, I guess first of all, when you played this, what system did you play this on? I'm just curious.
I played the original release on PS4,
Okay.
and then I also replayed it on Switch.
Okay, so
I
the S version.
prefer,
Okay.
yeah, the S version. I prefer the PlayStation version just because the graphics are definitely a lot
Mhm.
more polished. But I liked the accoutrements of the S version. Feel like they streamline the experience a lot more. So yeah, PlayStation 4 is still the preference though.
that was, to believe it or not, this was my first major Dragon Quest game that I ever played. Uh,
What?
I know, and I own
And
my
you call
Dragon
yourself
Warrior
a
character.
gamer?
I know. I felt the other ones were always like so difficult to start into and unforgiving. And this one actually, to me, felt like it helped me learn a little bit better. Um, I love this game, and I think um, this is like one of their masterpieces. I'm not saying it's the best in the series because I can't really say that, but this one totally is a masterpiece. I own both versions, the one there and the one on the Switch, and just some of the stuff they did in there. I think it is like not only a game that if you've never played a Dragon Quest like myself, I felt it very easy to pick up and play because the story had me going more than anything, and I think
Yeah,
that's
so this I think that's one of those things about the game that just makes it so incredible is just the epic scope of storytelling, and it's definitely one of those games that does something that we haven't seen in a long time in RPGs, and that's the story actually shocked me. I
Mhm.
think when you play a game where the bad guys win in some capacity is not something that you see very often. You don't see very often games where you are permanently losing party members, and even if you can't, what's your guys' theory on spoilers? Spoilers are
Honestly,
okay. You're
I
assuming like
that's an
honestly
old.
I don't really care too much. I will say though, I haven't played 11. Um,
okay.
Not because I don't want to. It's just I have so many other things on my plate. But
Or there was a gay gasp I did back there, but I don't think you could hear it because it's actually silent for straight men. Like they
Mhm.
don't hear the gay gasp.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah,
All
but
right, you're
gay
good.
gasp.
But yeah, no, I've only played four four and five, maybe the original.
Okay.
And then I played the builders and eight, a bit of eight. But like I've never touched 11, but that's just because yeah, I have too many things on my plate. I did end up playing the demo for Switch kind of recently to try to see if I did want to just invest in it and buy it. And I did like what I did play, but I'm just gonna get it for PlayStation because they do have the S version now for PlayStation.
Oh, sweet.
So it's called like S Definitive Edition or something. So I'm probably just gonna end up getting that eventually. But yeah, I am gonna play it eventually. But yeah, you can talk about spoilers. You can talk about anything you want. It's fine by me.
Perfect. Well, just those things that you just don't see in a lot of newer RPGs, and we have a lot of systems that were introduced in Dragon Quest VIII because when I thought about the series, it was definitely like, oh yeah, Dragon Quest VIII was definitely a really great game, but I think 11 really took it even further.
Mhm.
Also, this is probably going to hurt some feelings, not for you guys, but for maybe like people who listen to RPGaymer that like I think Dragon Quest is now what Final Fantasy was. We see Final Fantasy Square's team really trying a lot of new things and breaking away from the core of what Final Fantasy is, but Dragon Quest has always stayed its lane
Yeah.
and worked on perfecting its lane. And I think that's what you see as the culmination of Dragon Quest XI. You see this like perfect entry that didn't compromise anything. Of course, there are little new things, but it's not outside the box, and you really just get that great experience at 100 hours.
I totally agree. Um, I on the PlayStation 4 version, I am about 65 hours in. But the thing is that I never got bored. I never felt like what you sometimes get where it feels grindy. I never really felt that. And so, and I think that's a good looking game too. Um, I feel sometimes RPGs make everything a little bit overly difficult uh, with everything you could do. And I think this does just enough where you can upgrade your characters, you can change out weapons, you can change out armor, but it's not overkill to the point where it's like, oh god, now I got to change their eyebrows or I got to change this. Which, and I'm not knocking those things. I
Hey, but
think,
you could wear a cat suit. You can change
yeah,
something.
yeah, you can do that, but like I felt for me like I could turn it on, I could play it, and the time would just go away where you're like, oh crap, man, I should probably go to bed because I got to work in the morning. Uh, well played, because it's funny you talk about that because I'm pretty sure that's on my list too. I have alternates, but that one is on my list. So
All right. Well, awesome. Um, well, Ben, since one of them was stolen from your list, do you want to go next?
yeah, and I'm probably gonna get hate for this one. I'm gonna just be upfront.
I won't hate you. I'll make fun of you.
Like, can I guess? Can I guess?
Yeah,
Is it Chrono Trigger?
no, it
Are
is
you,
not.
are you gonna no, you're not saying Chrono Trigger?
It's Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah, you mentioned this. Yeah.
I love that game. So back a younger Ben, minus children, minus marriage, is working at Blockbuster Video. I had just got
What's Blockbuster? What's that?
oh my god.
No, I'm just joking. I'm
Uh,
just
Video,
joking.
video update, right?
we had
Movie
those.
gallery.
I yes, I someone's like, "Hey, you should play this game." I'm like, "Man, the pictures on the back look really good for my PlayStation 2." I had just bought it. There wasn't very much out. Bought this game first night, played from 10 o'clock at night till about 4 in the morning. And I've played this on several consoles. Now, the updated version that I play on my computer is probably the best version I've seen. Um, just graphics, the way it runs is the best it's ran. I love this story, and yes, there's going to be spoilers, especially if you've not played this game at this point. Uh, it brought a new dynamic to Final Fantasy games in the fact of the spear grid and some of those elements there, but the story is what got me. I think you had a kid that was on top of the world that now is sucked into, he has no idea where he is. Finds out later that where he's at is in the future, and his dad who was always a jerk to him, is now like, oh my god, he was so nice, everyone loves him. It's like a total twist on that. And what you find about the main bad guy, not Seymour, who is one of the bad guys, but of like the main one, which is Sin, you find out later that it's his dad. It's very Star Wars-ish, uh, story wise. And he's got to get over the hate of his father, uh, in that. And I think other than that, it brought us one of us the greatest players, which is Orin, who is literally one of the top players. He was even awesome in Kingdom Hearts. But I love this game. I can play this game all the time. I own the PS4 version. I own the Switch version, and I own it on my PC. I just think it is probably my mind one of the top RPGs. I mean, literally, and you can play it on any system nowadays. So
Mhm.
It's definitely one of the greatest. I call it Final Fantasy daddy issues, because everyone kind of has their father issues in that game. It's one of the first ones that has dual protagonists because Yuna plays a lead role just as much as Titus does. I'm a Titus guy, not a Titus. I'm
Not
sorry
Titus.
for the Kingdom Hearts fans. No, I
Okay.
can't do it. The,
All
the
right.
English teacher and me, the fanatics, just it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
um, But it was also just one of the first games that actually made me cry like a little baby. I feel like the PS2 era of Final Fantasy games was definitely a cry-worthy time. So Kingdom Hearts, the ending, Final Fantasy X, the ending, those were definitely, they're up there for most tear-jerking moments. So yeah, that's definitely a good pick.
Nice.
Alex, I know you love Final Fantasy X too as well,
I
right?
I actually do like 10 too. Yeah. When I was younger, I really like J-pop music and that kind of stuff. So I really like the I don't know, just the soundtrack in general of 10 2. I thought they did interesting stuff in that game compared to the original 10, but I'm honestly not too big of a fan of 10. Not to say that's bad or anything. There's just certain
Ooh,
things
you two should
now.
totally fight, fight.
We've talked about it before, but like I don't necessarily think on a stream or on a podcast, but there's certain parts now playing a game, especially when it's been remastered and things. The modern gamer in me, I guess, uh sees these cutscenes and things, especially in the beginning where you're being sucked in the water and stuff. I'm like, this could have been a QT. I could have been moving in the water right now. There's just certain things that just because I've been playing it more recently, I don't have as many touchstones to it when it came out on PS2 versus now. I'm comparing it more to modern games. Um, but I did play it a little bit when I was younger, when I did get a PS2. But I gravitated more towards 10-2, but I gravitated more towards other games overall. um, but yeah, it's definitely a good pick, and I won't get mad at you for it or anything, Ben.
It's
Um,
not Grand Theft Auto 5. So
See, I actually thought like I was like, is he gonna put Grand Theft Auto on
on a
there?
on a side note, Patrick, we did a 2022
Oh, should I pull
list
this
of
up?
things we thought we were going to come out this year, or like just our thoughts of like we're picking. Literally, one of his picks is that Ben will buy Grand Theft Auto again for the next gen console because I have bought it
Oh
for
my
every
god.
console, and I don't know why. I mean, the online is awful, and I still play it. I have no idea. I have not bought the new one,
Yeah.
Alex. You have?
Everybody has their game. Everybody has their game.
Yeah, it's fine, and I'll just
I,
get a point for it. It's fine.
I
Just
don't
do
want
it.
him to get a point. That's why I'm not buying it. Alex, what is one on your list?
Um, well, I realized that my prop, I forgot one of them. So I guess we'll just work it this way since we're going in the realm of Final Fantasy. Um, we're gonna go good old Titus. We're gonna go with Kingdom Hearts. I guess the original Kingdom Hearts probably the most. I don't have my Kingdom Hearts one with me; it's in the other room. But the first Kingdom Hearts is definitely my favorite out of the whole series. It's very. I always say this, but no pun intended.
Coherence.
Uh, yes, but also like no pun intended or anything. It is simple and clean.
And clean.
Yeah, but it the mechanics aren't too crazy. Like there aren't any drive forms or anything like that with two. Two is excellent in its own right. We're expanding upon the combat, the story, and all of that. But one is very just central. Like it is focused. I really enjoy the basic combat in it. I enjoy the little puzzles here or there. I enjoy just the story in general. Like it's simple, but like I really do enjoy playing this as a kid, especially like your first time. You're like, whoa, that's Cloud over there. Oh, he's hanging out with me. That's pretty fun. Or there's not Squall, it's Leon. There's Leon over there. Um,
Less edgy Squall.
yeah, exactly. That's why he changed his name. um, but yeah, no, I love the music in this game. I love the combat. This game definitely inspired me into like just enjoying more uh, action RPGs because this was really one of the first action RPGs I played, especially because it was a 3D PS2 action RPG. And yeah, I still prefer this game mostly compared to the other ones. I have done a list before of like my top Kingdom Hearts games and all that. 3 and 2 are excellent as well. Dream Drop Distance is up there for me as well. But Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 1 for sure. It's the one that I can always go back to because of how short it is as well. There isn't a whole lot of backtracking. It's pretty much just you do a world, you go and you just go to the next world. You do have to backtrack like once or twice, but overall, like it isn't like 2 where you have to go back and forth all the time. Um, I have played this game too many times. Similar to Ben, like buying Final Fantasy X a bunch. Like I bought Kingdom Hearts the series as many times as I possibly can, pretty much, just because like it's another excuse to like, oh, I could get on this. I have it on my PC now as well through Epic Game Store, at least the 1.5, 2.5 version. And like, oh, cool, I can play this again. It gave me an excuse to play it again. Um, and I was for a time last year streaming it as well, the first Kingdom Hearts, and I played it zero EXP mode. So I just wasn't leveling up at all, and I just had to rely on guard, or actually no, not even guarding. You don't even get guard. I had to rely on dodge rolls and attacking and like countering with an attack, and I got all the way to Halloween Town and Atlantica, and I just couldn't get past those two. But I did get that far without leveling up or anything. I got Keyblades and all that, and it was a fun little challenge that I could do to play this game differently because I had played it so many times before. And I do have the Platinum Trophy for PS4 as well.
Nice.
But yeah, excellent game, excellent series.
I think with that game, what cracked me up was I still younger Ben, still no children. I worked at a store called FYE, and my boss at the time was like, "Oh my god, have you played this Kingdom Hearts game?" I was like, "No." He's like, "It's like Final Fantasy with Disney." So I bought it. The first time I got to use Simba as a summon, I was like, done. Not only just Simba, but like Genie and Tinkerbell. I was like, man, this is like it literally was a Disney game mixed with some Final Fantasy characters. Uh, but yeah, I love that game. I actually have this box of like the story so far that they sold. I don't even need it. I don't even think I've opened it, but I own it. But yeah, I love that game. I'm surprised I didn't think about putting one of those on my list, but I figured that Alex has probably got him on his list pretty much covered.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I have like this, which is a special like 1.5, 2.5 for PS3. That you had to like buy on like Square Enix's website or something. But then yeah, I have it on PS4. PS4 and PC is probably my preferred place to play it. Just because the file mix version is just so much more fun, in my opinion. But if you are just playing the regular PS2 version, like you're still in for a treat. And I do recommend. And honestly, like the games so far, I mean, we've only done 3, but yeah, I do recommend everyone to play these games because obviously there's something good about it if we put it in our top 5. But yeah, that's all I have about Kingdom Hearts, I guess, for now. I could go on forever, but Patrick, what do you want to talk about next?
Yeah, I'm gonna go polar opposite of my first pick, and I'm gonna go way back because I'm also old. Don't let this sweet young innocent face fool you. But back in the early '90s, there was a series called Fantasy Star, and it's
Oh,
a little
wow.
game. It was one of the first RPGs I played was Fantasy Star 4, and that for me is like the promise of great things to come as an RPG because here you have this game on a very early system, Sega Genesis, that completely took you on a major adventure across the galaxy. And it was one of the first games that I played where you actually saw character depth. Are you guys pretty have you played it? Have you played Fantasy
Yeah.
I haven't
before?
played 4.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. 4 was definitely one of the first games, even including Final Fantasy, because if you think of like Final Fantasies 4 and 6 were out at the time, you got glimpses of characters and you started to get decent themes of characters of and they have their own little plot points, but Fantasy Star took it really far, and one of the ways they achieved this not only was the strong writing, but there were basically all of the cutscenes, if you will, were comic book panels in a way,
Hmm.
where there was like legit anime manga style drawings of what was going on in the scenes, and they pop up kind of like comic book panels, and you get to see dramatically what was going on as opposed to little pixel sprite characters. Interacting with each other. So you really got to see the depth of what was going on, and that really lets you know in terms of console RPGs that we can express, we can emote, we can give you so much more. Also, the tracks are banging, and the battle system was pretty good too.
Oh my gosh. When we were doing the podcast with Spencer, I was the only one that had a Genesis, really.
Yeah.
And so, uh, that I remember playing that. It was hard for me back then because I was not used to those type of RPGs. I
Hmm.
was probably one of the few people that bought it for the Dreamcast. Uh, but yeah, I think uh, those games were so well done, and they pushed those systems to the limit of what they could do. Um, I just love the story and the actual, even like the gameplay itself. I thought was really good. Um, it was always a debate on the bus because you had people that were Final Fantasy people, and then you had
Hmm.
Fantasy Star people, and sometimes a fight would break out. As a nerd, I didn't go very far.
I wish I went to a school where people were fighting about Final Fantasy and Fantasy Star, but it was unfortunately the only person who was playing those games. But fortunately, it's still a game that you could pick up if you get like the say classics on, I
Yeah,
think, any system. And it's just short RPG. It's not going to take you very long. But if you can play something like Dragon Quest and
Mhm.
still get a lot of enjoyment out of it, you will absolutely love Fantasy Star.
I love your list so far, but mine like totally looks like crap now. Like like you're picking out all these really great nostalgia games.
Well, you limited us,
Well,
Ben.
I tried to pick out games that I didn't think that guys were going to pick too. That like I authentically think be the top 5 RPGs, but I'm also like someone at some point is going to say Chrono Trigger, so I don't want to put it on my list.
I will say it's not on my list. Um, but I've never actually beaten it all the way. I do own it. I own it
Hey,
on.
that gas was pretty loud. If you heard that one.
I have it on Super Nintendo. I have a cartridge, and then I also have it on DS. I have been slowly going through it, but I do enjoy it a lot. I should say, but I never really had an opportunity to play that game until later on in my life. Um, and that's just the reason why for that one. But also, again, Ben limited our scope compared to yours, so we're talking about PlayStation games here. Um,
I
You
mean,
got a little different.
you can still change it on the fly because
no, no,
I
no, I can't, because then it's just gonna be me from every single episode. Hey, I like Mother 3. Did you know Mother 3 is the best RPG of all time? Because I love that game. It should get a release sometime. That's me every single episode.
I swear every time we do like
You did a release for free 13 years ago on your
yeah,
computer.
Yeah.
anytime Patrick we want to do one of those like Nintendo Directs, we do like, hey, let's talk about what we think is going to be announced, right? And Alex is like Mother 3.
It's right there.
Every
I actually read an article the other day about Mother 3 and how not to like break your heart, but it may never release because the modders did such a good job that they just decided not to stop them and why I never got a cease and desist because they're just kind of like, well, our game's out. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I've been trying to learn Japanese so I can actually play my copy up there, because that's a complete in box copy over there. um, yeah,
ooh.
I also have Mother 1+2 on Game Boy Advance as well now, from a recent convention. But
Remind me to ask you for your address later so I can come over, beat you up, and take your stuff.
oh, okay, will do. For sure. Ben, I guess it's your turn, right?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about one that is a very obvious title, and this was hard because I like two out of the series. So I picked Mass Effect 2. I like 3 a lot. The mechanics are completely different, but it doesn't feel like a RPG game as much as 2 does. Um, so I love this game just for the fact the visuals are awesome. The story actually makes sense. Even though, spoiler, he dies in the first one, they recreate him with his memories. But what I love about it is the group that brought him back, he doesn't like at all. And so that story is he's building a team. He's trying to stop these group from taking people, and they're back. And so he's working with these people, but he's also recruiting his own people. Um, I love how you have to make decisions. And if you make the wrong decision, people in your group will die. And that's what sucks. The way they made this game is you can bring those people to the next game. And anyone that's played this game knows that the Krogan in Mass Effect 2 is a beast. I used him for almost every single mission I could because he never died. He was like a beast. So, and also it was one of those first games where, and I know it was pretty controversial that Mass Effect 2 and even 1 and 3, you can sleep with anybody. So if you want to sleep with
Wow,
Garrus,
chicka, wow, wow.
yeah. Now, which is funny because if I'm pretty sure one of the alien races, if you sleep with them, only get like a disease of some sort. I don't know.
It's a
I
good life lesson.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, don't sleep around. Uh, well, I think this was really I remember because I being a pastor's kid, uh, watching people on TV talk about this game is just like sex everywhere and blah blah blah. It's not. You had to build up romances and that. So, but I think the cool thing is you brought back this team, um, and the story was so good. It was hard because 3 is awesome. 3 is like a no hold bars, one universe against one group that is going to destroy. So it was hard. But the first time I played this game, I have never played a game where I wanted to get off of work and go put it on and play that game right away. And that was this game. I mean, that's all I thought about was playing this game. I own the Legendary Collection right now, and I can play that on my PS5. That's awesome on the PS5 running at the top frames. I will tell you right now. One still sucks. One's awful. It's one. I would compare one to the diarrhea. It's not fun. So uh, it's a really bad analogy. But yeah, that is my second pick here. Alex,
Yep.
what's I'm gonna guess. Is it Persona? It is. Isn't it?
It depends. It depends what you want. It depends on how I change it. Did I have 2 Persona games listed on here? It's possible. Also, did I accidentally put 4 on here twice? It's possible. I need to delete that. Yeah, let's just go for it. Let's do the one that everyone knows I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about Persona 4. Persona
Nice.
4, Persona 4 Golden. Persona 4, for the longest time, I said it was my favorite RPG of all time. I love the story. I love the combat. I love just the the school life versus dungeon life. I really like having a calendar and just like I have a set schedule of like I can only do this at certain times, because it really does make it challenging and gives you that sense of urgency of like, oh man, we need to rescue this person that's stuck in the TV world or whatever because we have so many days, otherwise they might die. Normally, the way I play these games though is just that you just go through the dungeon as fast as you can, get to the top, save, leave, and then do some stuff, and then you finally go back and just grind your way through. But yeah, most people nowadays would probably say Persona 5. I personally I like that game. I think it does really cool things as far as quality of life and just a lot of the stylistic choices of Persona 5. The music is great. The combat's really great. But I personally don't care for the main characters, like the cast of characters, too much compared to Persona 4. In Persona 5,
Totally with you on that.
yeah,
100% with you on that. Where like I my honorable mention was going to be Persona 4 for a lot of the reasons that you're listing.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons why it was 4 over 5 is just because the characters in 4 are far superior to the characters in 5. Like
Yeah.
they're realistic high
Yep.
schools. And murder mystery, the fact that you legitimately have to figure out who is doing all this and the
Yep.
game just doesn't hold your hand and tell you and you can actually fail was just like, there goes my brain. There goes my brain.
It's Scooby
Do I have
Doo.
to look this up in a guide to figure it out? Yeah, you literally had a Scooby Doo it. Like there was a lot at stake for figuring out what was going on. And even
Yeah.
after you figure out who it is, there's still more. It was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again with the Persona 5 comparison, I really do like the side characters in Persona 5 more than the main characters in Persona 5, whereas the other way around, in Persona 4, I don't really like too many of the side characters like in like the other um uh now I'm saying confidants in my head. That's not what it is. That's the most recent game I played. Uh
Social
Social
links.
links, yes, thank you. Yeah, the other social links and things, like I didn't care too much for the band kid or the choir kid, that kind of stuff. Compared to in Persona 5, like they were more interesting in that aspect. But the everything else about Persona 4 just makes it so much better. I love that it's on the Vita. It's on the PC now as well. I played it originally on PS2, and then I bought a PlayStation Vita just for this game and for Golden, and that's why I bought the special edition, the Golden edition or whatever, because it came with a case for your Vita. It came with a special hard case for your Vita as well. It came with like a screen protector type thing. It was the edition of, we know you bought a PlayStation Vita just for this game. Here's some stuff to protect your Vita. And yeah, like I I love that game so much. The soundtrack is amazing. The Is it just called Heaven? Like Heaven is one of my favorite songs in that game. The one where you go up to save Nanako. Um, and the openings for both of these games are great. But overall, I would
Also,
say,
kanji. You didn't say anything about kanji yet. Please say something about kanji.
you want some? It's kanji. That's kanji summed up into one. You want some, especially in the fighting game coming soon. I'm definitely gonna play that a lot again. But I love kanji so much. Kanji's great. All the characters are great.
He's beautiful.
I I love like Brosuke, as I call him, Yosuke. Um, he's such a fun, like, nice bro who hangs out with you. Kanji's great. I like just everything about him. I really, I'm trying to think, like, Naoto's fine. We just don't get enough time with Naoto, in my
Mhm.
opinion. I like Chie a lot, and Yukiko's fine as well. I wish that Yukiko maybe had a little bit more depth to her besides just my parents running in. I guess I have to run it in, and they kind of maybe make that a little bit better in the fighting game when they do more of the VN type things in there, to like just give more depth and substance to the after game of Persona 4. Um, but oh man, I didn't even talk about Teddy. Teddy's great. I love Teddy. um, yeah, everything about this game, the jokes, everything. Um, yeah, it is still one of my favorite games. Especially, it's probably my favorite PS2 RPG. Um, or definitely my favorite Vita RPG. But yeah, it's excellent. This is another one of those games where I own as many times as I can. So I own it on PC, I own it on Vita, I own it on PS2. If once they release on Switch, I'm gonna own it on Switch someday, maybe. Because everyone is always yelling like Persona 5 for Switch. No, we need Persona 3 and we need Persona 4. Um, yeah, but yeah, that's one of the Persona games on my list. So depending on how we go, I might put another one on there. So yeah.
What about you? What about you, Patrick? What's next on your list?
Ooh, so I'm trying to devise the best order to say these. Okay, so I think the next one I would have to say is probably one of the best RPGs of all time is probably Fallout New Vegas.
Okay.
I know that can go kind of loose on the term of RPG. Scott, Jason, and I talk a lot about what is an RPG and what isn't an RPG. But still feel like even if a game relies heavily on shooting, just like the world that is built in New Vegas and the role that you play and how you can really like sandbox your way through the game, New Vegas just feels like a fully actualized full environment where, Fallout 3 was a great step up, but maybe didn't necessarily have enough to fill it up. There was still a lot of exploring to do, but there wasn't a lot of story to tell. And Fallout 4, as great as the action was, really like had a lot of loose ends hanging that really didn't. It was almost a little bit more like they wanted to get more in the FPS realm than they did in the RPG. But New Vegas just always has a special place in my heart. The characters are great. Setting is pretty much perfect. They added one of my favorite styles of gameplay, which is survival mode. And basically any game that makes you have to eat, sleep, and drink water, I am there for that. Like that is totally my cup of tea in a game. I like to be challenged. I like it when it's a little bit more realistic. It's just overall a great experience. And that's one that I really hope that they end up remastering and re-releasing just because I would love to re-experience that and not have to play it on with my nostalgic goggles on, as I call it, where it's like trying to relive those moments when you're playing it for the first time.
I think those games are great. I didn't even play Fallout until 3. So, um, the only mistake I did is when I played it, I did that glitch on accident about the hat, where if you put the hat on, I can't remember what hat it was. It was a certain hat. You couldn't finish the game, or I think it was it's been a long time since I played it. There was a glitch with a certain type of hat. If you would wear it, you were just kind of screwed. I did that.
Weird, I didn't know that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, like I did that my first play around, and I'm like, why is this not ending? Where? But then but I didn't have a problem playing through it again. Uh, I think Bethesda does those games really well. I love the VATS. That's like my favorite thing to play with. You can gun like you would normally do in a shooter, but you have that VAT system, which is cool. Uh, but those games were really cool, especially for like the post-apocalyptic games and what they did. I mean, I just think they were so much fun.
Well, it's such a great universe that I mean, we see way too much of now, but at the time, we didn't have a lot of post-apocalyptic games. Um, and just to be done with such integrity, because if you did, it was usually really choppy, ugly, just go out and murder this. Nothing really like I live in this world. And I think that's one of the reasons why New Vegas it might be a little bit of a stronger entry than 3 and 4, where those games you hadn't really experienced the wasteland yet as your characters because one lived in a vault their entire life or the other one was frozen and basically is in his future now. But New Vegas, you're the courier, and the courier absolutely has existed. Like you are a part of this, and you really really believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, yeah, another game that pushed that system to the limits of what it would do. Um, Anytime I play that game, I'd sound like a Harrier jet every time, on my system. So, but yeah, I think those games are great. It's funny you talk about Fallout New Vegas. So I have Fallout 3, uh,
Nice.
which with its problems because it did have a ton of glitches. I mean, I don't know how many times that game just would freeze, on me. But once you got past that and you actually got into the gameplay of the world of what you could and could not do, I loved making your own story, making your own choices, uh, which RPG games have done before. Um, but I thought it was really cool when you got that high-powered rifle and using the VAT system. And this is gonna sound gross, but when you would shoot somebody in the leg and their leg would just flip off.
Yes.
like in the middle of nowhere, or you'd be out somewhere and all of a sudden some giant creature of some sort would pop up and you'd have to fight that. You'd go to settlements and they would have problems and you would try and solve those problems. And I think that for me, it just felt okay. So if this really did happen, you have these settlements, it's just people trying to survive. Uh, as we're in Final Fantasy, it just seems like it's a village, right? Or this. But was
Right, like as soon as you cross the threshold of a town, all of a sudden all issues no longer exist. Meanwhile, like literally there's a giant stomping around blowing everything up. Like I totally get what you're saying. Like
yeah,
that illusion of safety is just not there.
Mhm.
yeah, I think the big thing is like obviously the mutants were a big problem.
Hmm.
Or you get to the point where there's ghouls and some ghouls were intelligent. And so you can have full-fledged conversations with a ghoul. Uh, and some of them were not. But what was really cool is like you'd be in a house and you'd be like looking through stuff, and then you'd turn a corner and it was actually a raider's house. And then you'd have raiders everywhere. And but once you got really good at it and your VAT system was really good and your gun was good, you could pick off people pretty quick. Um, but like I love the VAT system when people were running to you where it would slow down and you could pick where you were going to shoot them, and then you had a certain number of points. Uh, that game to me was really well. The DLC was rough, I will tell you that. There were tons of glitches. But if you just played the normal Fallout 3, I thought that game was just fantastic. It's funny, I tried to go back and play like the old school ones. Uh, can't do it.
I mean, they're
Uh,
completely
and
different games. So
they are. They're completely different. So um, that's why I was excited for Fallout 76, but I don't know what happened there. That was awful.
It's worth
Uh,
revisiting. I picked it up once they added, or I repicked it up once they added some of the expansions, and they claim like it's fixed now. I wouldn't say it's fixed, but it's definitely more along the lines of a traditional Fallout experience. So I'd say give it a shot if you can.
yeah, I mean, I tell you the one thing from Fallout 3 that I did that to an extent was to get the armor, get the full-fledged armor. When you get that armor and it works and you start walking around, uh, man, is that an awesome feeling. It's definitely a feeling of being invincible. So that is definitely one of my other picks here, as I've changed a couple because I did have Dragon Quest on there. Uh, uh, Alex, what's one of yours?
okay. Well, I would like to say really quick before I head off on the mine. Yeah, Fallout 3 was my first Fallout game. New Vegas was the more polished Fallout 3, and that's why I really
Which is
appreciate
funny
it.
calling New Vegas polished, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's
It was
Obsidian
so
as well,
invested.
so
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
so it definitely just has that Obsidian polish on it compared to Fallout 3, where like I was always falling into like the world so many times. I fell into a mountain. I can't say how many times,
Yeah,
or just stuff like that. But like, I do appreciate those games a lot. Those aren't games I really gravitate towards, to be honest. But yeah, they are definitely up there for top RPGs for sure. Um, and personally, for me, not Fallout 4. I personally just don't like that game. I tried to play it, and it just yeah, like all the reasons why you say why Vegas is better. Like I totally agree with you. Like but more so just because I just don't have fun with Fallout 4. Um Especially cuz it is a little too samey as well. Especially like I want to say I played New Vegas and then almost got into Fallout 4 immediately and I was like, "Oh, I'd rather be playing Vegas." um
everybody says that.
Yeah, but yeah, those are excellent picks. I guess we will go. So I'm cheating a little bit. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Oh,
I mean, this is not a
uh-oh.
competition.
So
Zach here, so it's not a competition.
okay. So I am my next game is actually a series because of how short they are and how they're not really a complete game. Ben, you might know where I'm going with this, maybe.
Oh, I think I do.
These are games that
Is it dot hack?
it's dot
Is it?
hack.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah, it's dot hack.
it.
I'm currently streaming twitch.tv/gtar02. You can find me there. I'm currently streaming Outbreak. My first time ever playing it. Because I recently got Outbreak in quarantine like a year and a half ago. So now I have the final two. Got it for a really good price, honestly. I got it for like, this says 160 for quarantine, but I got it for like 140 with Outbreak and quarantine together. And quarantine by itself is like what, 300 something. We checked that a couple weeks ago, but it is complete. All these are complete in box with the guides, the anime OVAs, everything. Yeah. So I will say again, I've never beaten these games, but playing I beat Infection Mutation, and I'm about maybe halfway through Outbreak. But I played Infection Mutation enough to know like these games are what I really like about mindless RPGs, I guess. They're very good streaming games as well, where it's just like I can just turn my brain off and just click in some keywords and then just go have fun, just go dungeon raiding. It's the faux MMORPG, where I don't have to be friends with people. I don't have to actually raid and do stuff with real people like with 14. I can just go by myself, ride a grunty, and then just go fight things, go dungeons, raiding all of that. But it's really interesting how these games just really, well, first of all, I guess it's really interesting how these games came out really close to each other. Like they came out within a year, I want to say. Within a year, all four of them did. And like the first game, I think you can only get to like level 30, and then the second game you can only get to level 50. Is soft cap, I should say, because everything will just give you 1 XP after a certain point. So you can get to level 99 in the first game if you really want to. It's gonna take forever, but yeah, it's just awesome. No pun intended. It's awesome how the world is just very vast, and just there's so much to it. The news articles alone, like I always like reading those on a stream, just because like it's interesting to see what they thought of what 2012 or was it maybe 2014, I forget, was gonna be, where they're talking about like, oh man, they're taking away things are going to become non-smoking now, that's dumb. Or like talking about like how just how internets and like there was one about print newspapers were going away, and I was like, is that true? Is that really going to go away? We will find out. It's like like,
I mean, my dad's one is 2022, so
yeah, but it's just like interesting how like a lot of that stuff was a little ahead of its time, because these games came out in 2001, 2002, and how they predicted a little bit of like what would be happening eventually, just with the news stories alone, but also just a lot of the symbolism, the character growth, character development, the anime I've talked about on the streams and stuff, as well as the podcast. Dot Hack Sign is a really, really good anime. It's a really boring anime, I will say that as well. It's beautiful, has awesome awesome themes, symbolism, characters, growth, everything, but it's talking the anime with very soothing music. But that's okay. Like it's very good though. But if that's not your cup of tea, don't watch it. There's a lot of books that tie into these things. There's the GU series, which I'm not super fan of, but the IMOQ series for sure is definitely a great PlayStation series, and they really should bring it back. It's the 20th anniversary of Dot Hack this year, I want to say, because the GU Last Recode came out recently this year for Switch. And I know since it just came out, there's a questionnaire at the end, or like in the Japanese version, and it asks like at the end of the questionnaire, what do you want us to do, essentially. And one of the things was like remake old games. So maybe we will see a remake of that hack, or at least a remaster or something, because I'm playing these games right now. I'm having a lot of fun. I like the monotony of like some of the stuff that it does, because that's just I like playing these games that way. You don't really have to grind, just as long as you do everything, like story wise and side quest wise. You won't have to grind, but they do give you the opportunity to just type in random keywords to go to random places, because it is an MMO. You can experience it as your own MMO essentially, and just go raiding with your party members to wherever. But the story mechanics are neat. Yeah, I like this. I like these games a lot, and I'm looking forward to playing more, for sure. But yeah, these are quarantine is definitely like one of my holy grails here that I have. So, but yeah, excellent games.
What about you,
Um,
Patrick?
well, yeah, I am gonna go back again to another oldie. So, again, when I was thinking of my list, I was trying to think of different things that games have done really well that would put them in the top 5. So, my next pick, I think, is the first RPG to really get integrating puzzles with integrity really well. So for me, that was Wild Arms 1.
Yes.
I played that when it came out. I mean, you want to talk about games that have like awesome little anime cutscenes at the beginning of them. I think that was probably one of the first, and it was either the first or second RPG released on the PS1. I'm pretty sure it came out right before Final Fantasy VII, so I think it kind of got smothered in its release. But this is like a game that well, if you never heard of it, it's a Western style JRPG. So basically, everything has like a Western flair to it. I'm not in an off-putting way, but just kind of like some of the environments, the tunes. It's just really great. As far as combat, it's not really doing anything all that special, but it's still like wholesome and good. But every dungeon that you go into has Legends of Zelda style puzzles. And I really thought that was the selling point of this game, because I'm huge on, I don't like going into a dungeon and it just to be a combat slog. And that's one of my struggles with replaying some of the old Final Fantasies, where like if I'm just looking for something to do to pass the time, sure, that's great. But I also like thinking when I play game. And Wild Arms is one of the first ones that really did that, because most games before that was a go over here at this switch, now hit this other switch. Wild Arms was like shoot your little wind rat across this little tunnel in order to hit the switch, or light these torches in a certain order with your fire wand, or bomb certain things, or hook shot through this, but then you quickly need to dash through and hit the switch. There was just a lot of complexity, and every dungeon you went to built on those puzzles even more. I think Lufia 2 was probably the game that came before that that was the closest thing. And I really think that Wild Arms solidified that. So that's definitely, if you get the chance to play, I mean, I am pretty solid in the Wild Arms series being one of the better RPG or JRPG series. And it just does not get the notice that it deserves. But Wild Arms 1 is truly, truly a good one. The writing is really great in that game too. Like the characters are pretty good.
I mean,
Have you
that's
guys played?
I have not, but I remember back when you would get magazines with demo discs, they had that
Mhm.
on there, with the whole opening, and I was like, "How is this running like this?" I mean, it looked great. I never really played it though. Like I was at that point really not playing a lot of role playing games. I know, but uh, yeah, I remember getting that. And I was like, "What is this?" Wild Arms. Um, I definitely would. I definitely think. that is a series that definitely needs. You see all these collections come out. Like we just had Castlevania, we had Contra, we got the Turtles one coming out, the Cowabunga edition that's got all these. Konami's been doing them. Why not do one where you put all these old games like that series on there?
I feel like it's coming because Grandia just got
Hmm.
its HD release for 1 and 2, and those are really, really great games as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we do end up seeing more uh developers do this because people they're just old games are just in such high demand,
Hmm.
you know. And like I feel like every time I go to a used game store, I know what's coming soon because I feel like all the people who go into the dark web to figure out like what's being re-released for an HD remaster, you'll see those games in like their high tier games, like, oh, this game's never on the shelf, and all of a sudden there'll be 3 copies of it. And Grandia 1 and 2 were those games on my last foray going shopping for used games, and I was like, oh, those games are coming to an HD collection. Sure enough, they
Hmm.
came out. So
Oh, absolutely. With the Turtles one, they've got um, an NES game called Tournament Fighters, which
mhm, I
it's
played that.
yeah, it's a hard to get game, physical really of it. We saw Alex actually sent me a picture. The disc replay here had it. What was it like 2.99
Something
or
like
three?
that. Yeah.
One of those two. And so he was like, "Hey, you should get this." I'm like, "Yeah, hey, I buy that. I'm sleeping on the couch for like a year." She shit the pants. Uh, but yeah, I totally get that. Um, that's a really good one. I decided to switch my list around a little bit just because of the one, and I took off my dungeon, uh, my Dragon Quest one, and I put a game that most people probably don't remember, but it's a game called Dark Cloud. It
Oh.
was on PS2. Uh, that game was so much fun. Uh, Dungeon crawler. It looked. It was a weird. It was. It wasn't like okay. So Final Fantasy has this high production value. This didn't have it, but the story was really good. The combat was hard. I mean, it literally was. You really had to know what you were doing, but the game itself was fun. Um, fun game, fun mechanics. Um, you know, more elements and things you got, the better you can do. The more things you can do with your character. Um, and I love that game. I want to say I was still working at Blockbuster, and I would rent that all the time. I mean, we got 5 free rentals a week. I rented that game all the time to the point where I just bought it. I was like, yeah. And they had a second one come out that wasn't. I didn't think was as good.
I think
But
it's
this,
better.
do
I,
you really?
I think Dark Cloud 2 is better as well. I played both of them, and I definitely think it's better.
yeah.
I guess I just like it. I mean, on my original list, I had the bouncer, but then Alex would have called shenanigans because technically that's more of like a fighter and not an RPG.
Absolutely a fighting game.
It's like if you're gonna put Yakuza 0 on here, it's like that's more of a like a brawler game. Like yes, it does have RPG elements of like I don't know, like menu stuff, but yeah, at its heart it's a fighter.
I'm gonna put Mario Golf on here. Mario Golf is one of the best RPG games because you could level up your golf. No.
Yeah.
On a side note, I was listening to the. This is the last time I listened to the PlayStation blog podcast. They said you could write in of questions, thoughts, or whatever, and they said write in a game that you want released in either an HD or for us to do a second game. And I said I would love either the Bouncer 2 or the Bouncer to be released. And they're like, "Is this a joke?" I was like, "Yep." Obviously, I was the one of the 5 people that loved that game. I loved that game, and it was basically like what happened to Sora after Kingdom Hearts. He was now a bouncer, bar. Uh, I mean, literally, that game is like total trash. I do not own it, but I will own it at one point. I'm going to Comic Con this year, and that's my goal. That's one of my games to find that I'm gonna. I'm my wife's gonna kill me. I'm gonna probably spend 50, $60 on it. But yeah, I had to put Dark Cloud on here. I just really like that game a lot. Um, so, all right, Alex. So far, I've guessed the last 2 you picked. I'm trying to think of what else. that I can think of that you would pick on that list,
Well,
but I can't.
how many more do I have?
You
One.
should have 2 more.
I should have 2 more. Damn.
2.
Okay, so I guess I am running thin. All right, that's fine. So first of all, I wanted to say before I get to my stuff again, yeah, Dark Cloud, not really a huge fan of it. I own it, but when Patrick, when you were talking earlier about like survival meters and stuff, I immediately went to Dark Cloud in my head because I'm like, you gotta drink that water, you gotta drink that stupid water in that stupid game. That's one of the things I hate about Dark Cloud actually, because I feel like that isn't like done well in that game.
Yeah, definitely not done.
Yeah. But yeah, Dark Cloud 2 is the one that I would gravitate more towards because it is more of a JRPG, an actual RPG, compared to like a city builder with some dungeon.
Yeah.
And Wild Arms is an amazing game. I love that game a lot. I played it on the PlayStation Classic version on like PS3 and Vita. That's how I played it. I own Wild Arms 2 on there as well. I have not played that one yet. And I think Wild Arms 3...
Good, but still okay.
Yeah, I think Wild Arms 3 is on PS4. Like, I think you can buy that digitally on PS4.
Oh.
Yeah, they just did a release for with trophies and all. It's one of the few games I have a platinum on.
Nice. All right. But as far as my other games go, what did I last talk about? I talked about Dying last. Jeez. We're going back Persona. I guess. We're going Persona 3. I love Persona 3 a lot too. Ignore this signature from someone who is now we don't talk about him in the voice acting industry anymore. Cough cough thick manana. But
Yeah. Who did he voice?
He was Junpei.
Oh, but I love Junpei.
I know. And
get back here, you son of a...
Yeah, so like I saw him, like he was at a local convention a while back, and so I had him sign my Full Metal Alchemist Blu-rays. I also had him sign my Persona 3 FES, and yeah, now Vic Mignogna isn't liked anymore for valid reasons within the voice acting community. So yeah, so now I have to get a new copy of Persona 3 Fez, I guess. Because it's sullied. But anyway, yeah, Persona 3. I actually played Persona 4 first, and then I went to Persona 3 and Persona 3 Fez particularly. And for everything that Persona 4 does very well, Persona 3 does it very well as well. The only downside Persona 3, I would say, is that at least in Fez and the regular version, you can't control your party members. You can do that in Portable, but Portable has the issue of being the portable version on a PSP. So you can't just like walk around town. You have to do this weird like map pointer thing and choose places to go to, like VN-esque type layouts, and I don't really like that. So if we could get like some sort of remaster where you can control all your party members and have the Persona 3 Fez stuff in it, that would be amazing. I know that in Persona 5, I want to say, there was some like stuff found in there of the dorm from Persona 3, like in like the CG of it, like just for like testing purposes. So that makes people immediately think, oh, are we getting Persona 3 remake? What's happening here? But Persona 4 is very fun, just the way that is, and very cheery and stuff. Well, while Persona 3 is more dark and depressing, and the thing that I don't know, I tend to gravitate more towards that type of genre, especially when it comes to like anime and things like that. I did talk about this on a podcast a while ago for one of my finds, but I do also have the Persona Trinity Soul anime now, which is apparently very expensive. It's a spin-off to that, and I also have the movies of Persona 3, which were done by A1 Pictures. I got those at a half price books for very cheap. I'm very thankful because those Aniplex Blu-rays are always an arm and a leg. But yeah, there's not much else to say because I did talk about Persona 4 a lot. And Persona 3 is basically the same thing, just with darker tones. It's a little there are some issues with it as far as just it being a previous title. So there's definitely quality of life stuff put on Golden as well as just regular 4. But Persona 3, I do enjoy the characters a lot in that as well. I do enjoy the themes and things. Like Junpei, of course. Junpei is my boy.
So good.
um,
So good.
but
I always equated it to like if Persona 4 is the Scooby Gang, then Persona 3 is like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
yeah,
It's kind of like your monster of the week episode,
hmm
which thing that was really cool because there are not enough games that take place. There are not RPGs that take place in like current day settings
hmm
that don't tweak the formula too much. Where like, yeah, by day you're this real human being, but also you're fighting these nightmarish creatures at night. Like instantly sold when that
yeah,
Yeah.
happened. It was totally just like something like it's such a drought in the RPG genre. We don't have enough of these games, and that was the first one. Was like, yes, please, more.
yeah, and especially it creating a world as well. Like, yes, the Velvet Room exists in every Persona game, but like Gekkoukan High School in Persona 3, you visit that in Persona 4. Whereas in like Persona 5, you see Rise posters in Persona 5. So like they're all like within the same realm, and even with when the fighting games came out, the Persona 4 Arena and Arena Ultimax, with the re-release as well happening here soon. Like it's really cool to see those characters show back up and interact with the Persona 4 characters because they are both very interesting, but like they do have a lot of similarities, and that's why I really like Akihiko and Chie become really good friends because they're the same person, but also like not. So like it's fun to see like those type of dynamics, especially like Q, like Persona Q or something like that. I never played Persona Q two, but yeah, Persona 3 is definitely Persona 3 and 4 are definitely some of my top PS2 games as well. Um, but Persona 4 still has that special place in my heart because it's just the better game.
All right, Patrick. So, what is of your top 5? What is your last game on there?
I'm probably going to have to say one of my favorite games of all time, and I kid you not when I say I've played this game 17 times. No joke. It's just how dedicated I am to it and how long it's been in my life. But Final Fantasy VI, I think, is literally just one of the best games
Yep.
ever made. And the fact that like it was the last of these pixel remasters. It I just did a YouTube preview video on it before it actually released, and like just people go nuts over this game, and rightfully so, because this is when officially, you know, RPGs got serious, and this is when we started to see it wasn't like a character or two and the minor people that trickle along with them. This was everyone aside from like Mog and Amaro like get a true part of the story, and you really really get a good grasp of who all of these characters are and how everything's whole all intertwined. You see the villain winning, which I kind of mentioned in
Yep.
Dragon Quest. So Dragon Quest took that whole notion of the villain winning, and I know that that was not taken from, but like inspired by Final Fantasy VI with Kefka. Kefka is the richest, best villain in Final Fantasy.
Yep.
He's literally just chaos incarnate, which I love. He's not some boss or evil deity who's pulling the strings in the background, who comes in at the final battle and is like, surprise, it was me all along and you have no idea who I am. No, it's like he's been manipulating the scenes, and he is the crazy one. I think the journeys that some of the characters that go on are great and very relatable, like Tara, and wanting to know what it's like to be able to be connected to who she is and trying to figure out who she is. Celeste's theme of, like, what am I supposed to be when I thought everything that I stood for was right and it's all wrong. Completely flipping the script on who the lead character is. Like, there's just so much going on in the game. It's just so fleshed out, and oh my god, the music is just so good. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so good. When I played it, I actually just finished playing a run through of it. I emulated it, and I did a patch on it called Brave New World,
Mm-hmm.
just because I wanted to try it from a different perspective. And it's just crazy to think that, like, you can take a game like this and still continue to add on to it and expand on it to keep making it fresh and great. And I loved every minute of replaying it. Yeah, there, I said it. I think Final Fantasy VI is just one of the best RPGs that has ever, for consoles, that has ever come out.
Um,
I see a lot of nodding heads here, which is good.
well,
I mean, look at this background here. We have Final
Yeah.
Fantasy VI on Game Boy Advance complete in box. We have Final Fantasy Anthology. Unfortunately, it is a green label. Final Fantasy VI on Super Famicom. Final Fantasy 3 almost in complete in box. It's missing the map. But yeah, I have like two other just loose cartridges of Final Fantasy 3 on Super Nintendo. I love that game to death. It is my favorite Final Fantasy game. Everything that you have said about it. Yeah, when you were talking earlier about like the bad guy winning, and you see that again, yeah, I immediately thought of Final Fantasy VI, or as well, Tales of the Abyss does the exact same thing.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I like Tales of the Abyss as well, because I like seeing a bad guy win. Especially with Final Fantasy VI, though, because the characters and the villains are so there's so much depth to them. Um, like when you're playing and you're like, oh, Kefka is cool, he's doing things, but it's really Gestalt who's doing stuff. Oh no, it is Kefka. Good,
It
good.
really is Kefka. Yeah.
I'm so happy. But yeah, I recently downloaded and bought the Pixel remaster. I have not played it yet. I did switch around the fonts. So like the
I do not
fonts,
blame you.
yeah.
Totally not blame you.
So like it does look a little more filled out. I didn't do any mods. I just switched it to the JP version or whatever, so it looks more filled out. But uh yeah, the only thing I've heard different about that game, I mean besides the other things, is it's HD 2D for the opera scene with real music.
I
So like
listened to it and I did not like it.
yeah, so I haven't listened to it yet. I want to experience it as I play it eventually on here.
Mhm.
But I'm curious to see it, and if they went through all that work of making it HD 2D for that specific part, why not just go the extra mile and just make this whole game HD 2D? Because that's what everyone's been asking since we saw Octopath Traveler.
Mhm. Oh
Uh,
god, that would be just glorious, just to see the game in its entirety made like that.
yeah, and I'm also one other thing. I'm not used to seeing I'm not I'm not used to seeing Edgar without his green stuff, like his green garb, because now I'm seeing like blue. I watched a retrospective. This one person, I forget who it is, I follow on YouTube, where he just grabs every single version of a Final Fantasy, and then he just compares and contrasts like every different version, what's good, what's bad, and
Mhm.
I was noticing with Edgar, I'm like, oh yeah, he is blue and everything else except like the Super Nintendo and the PS1 version.
It's
Huh.
got that good old teal version. Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, that game excellent. Excellent choice. yeah, I could talk about that game forever again. But cool. Ben, what is your last one? You're muted.
I am.
Wait, no, you're not.
Oh, I will tell you. We're gonna go way back.
Back to the
To
past.
Brave Fencer Musashi.
Ooh, that's a good game.
I've
Uh,
never
oh,
played it.
oh my gosh, when I got this, um, I first off, I love that rich Japanese samurai background with this game. The bosses were huge. Uh, the story was great. The pixel was great. They actually had live voice acting in parts of it, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was just like
For
it
a
was,
PS1 game, that was pretty much unheard of. It was almost every main scene was voice acted.
yeah, it was definitely it was your stereotypical good guys versus bad guys. Heroes put into a situation that he doesn't was thrown into the situation. Now he has to try and figure out as he grows himself and gets stronger. The bosses were huge. It did have um, it was a not top downish, but it was kind of top downish view. The game looked great for being on a PS1 with the voice acting and stuff like that. Uh, he seemed like a really young kid just thrown into a bad situation. This game's great. I remember when I got it, I was like, "Oh my god, this game is fantastic!" And then I had bought it, and then I went back to the game store the next day to buy the strategy guide. And the guy's like, "Yeah, no one's buying this game." I'm like, "Why is no one buying this game?" It's great. I love this game. I would, if we were to put a ranking, it's up there pretty high. It's just a really good game, good mechanics. As you grow, you learn more things, just like any RPG. But I felt like the way they did that was really cool. So yeah, I mean, this is like early PlayStation One. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
just great
I
game.
think it came out in between like Final Fantasies 7 and 8 because it's a Square Enix game, and
Yep,
I remember specifically like I remember the game in its entirety pretty much, but two parts stand out for me. They mixed zombies and vampires and called them Vambies, which I
yep,
thought was the funniest thing I've ever heard. And then one of the bosses at the end of the game, for no reason whatsoever, is a rhythm game. Like
yep.
it's DDR, but like, and that's how you beat the boss because they don't want you to hit a female. So instead you have a dance off with her where it's a game of like memory and you have to like do the same rhythm that she does. Those beats will I have them memorized. Like I know exactly what they are because it's just like most adorable twisted. Like what is going? Why is this action game have these dance moves? Oh, and I think the final boss is also basically Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. Like he completely takes his Frieza-esque form, which is nuts. Like that game is just. You're right. It is a very good game.
There's so many parts that are just like you think you've got it down, right? And then they throw you a loop, and you're like, where are we going with this?" And that's what that game
Hmm.
was. Was that? And I think it's hilarious because I loved that samurai type game back then, and then here I am today, where I have bought Ghost of Tsushima on both systems, and I've platinumed it on PS4 and on PS5. Uh, and if we were doing, I think, what was it last year? We did our top games of the year. That was my number one game all day long. So this game here, I feel like, I swear, if I remember correctly, there was a demo on there. A new Square Enix game was on there. There was a demo, and that's why I think
It was Final Fantasy 8.
yep,
Mhm.
that's what it was because it did
Yeah.
sell okay, but only for the demo, which they used to do all the time back then. So, all right, Alex, I I I I feel like I've run through all the personas, unless you've got another, which would be, I want to say the Vita Golden, right?
I mean, I already talked about gold. 4 and golden kind of go together.
Okay.
So like, no, I'm not
I
gonna do
mean, you
that.
could Persona one of the Persona 2s. It's possible.
Yeah, it's true. I
Yeah.
could do Eternal Punishment or Instant Sin, or any of the versions of one, but no, I'm not. Um, So I was debating on a couple of these, but I decided to not. So this last one I actually don't have a prop for because I own it digitally now. I sold the other version, so oh no. Um, I I'm gonna talk about Final Fantasy 15. I did not like this game when it first came out. I hated it. I thought it was really boring. Thought it was like just awful. And then I went back to it when I got my PlayStation 5 because it was the Royal Edition was on there and it was quote unquote free with PlayStation Plus. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this game another chance. It's been quite a few years. They probably patched it. They probably done a bunch of things to it. And I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's also because seeing the demos and like playing the demo back when and seeing all the gameplay. Kingdom Hearts 3 wasn't out yet. And seeing the gameplay and like stuff, I thought I was gonna play like Kingdom Hearts 3. And I was really Kingdom Hearts rather. I was really let down that it doesn't play like Kingdom Hearts. It's weird. Like you hold the attack button, you do certain things, you do tactics, but it is still an action game for the most part. And so I think that's really the reason why I did not enjoy it originally, just because I was comparing it a lot to Kingdom Hearts after finally beating Kingdom Hearts 3 that already came out, went, playing through the Royal Edition of this. Um, I enjoyed everything about it. I was all for the story was kind of to be honest until the time skip. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I really like the episodic DLC, especially the last one with the what if scenario. I enjoy the bros just hanging out, and like yeah, there's just a lot of cool things in it. There is definitely it definitely is too big, and it's limited a little bit when it comes to like you have your car, you can only go so many places during the day versus at night because at night then there's too many monsters and you kind of just have to like wait.
You just gotta get good, bruh. You just gotta get good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but the way the game makes you do or seems to make you do things, it's just like, yeah, you should really only travel during the day and do this sort of stuff. But yeah, everything just sort of clicked after I played it through PS5, and also I think it had to deal with frame rate as well because I played the original one on PS4, like the original PS4. So just having everything at a consistent frame rate, visuals looking very nice. Yeah, I had a lot better time with it, and I can see why people do enjoy it. Because I do now. So
Yeah.
The graphics on the food are incredible.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like the food, oh my god! Like I want to go eat a choco now.
I was cracking up. I wasn't playing it, but my son was, and he had his first summon. And I'm used to like the summons being big in Final Fantasy games. Um, they're ginormous in this game, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Uh, I I actually have a list of games I want to play. Uh, that's on there. I know I want to play through all of the Kingdom Hearts games in order. That's another one. But yeah, I just think
How can you? What? How does one play the Kingdom Heart games in order? Like I feel like they're just. It's just. They're just. What is the story of Kingdom Hearts?
supposedly from a couple of the websites I looked at, there is an order to play the games of like story wise.
Don't play in that order. Just play in release order.
Yeah, release order.
And
My
honestly,
mind is blown.
You can probably skip Rechain of Memories. Like it's fun, I would say, but it's you don't really need to know much. You just really need to know Riku's story. um,
Uh,
but yeah, that's 15 for me. Is that everything?
that's everything.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
everything.
Dang.
I know, right? Normally, we uh, we normally go about an hour. We went a little bit over, but Hey, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so again, for the listeners, Patrick, where all can they find you? When does your podcast drop? Do the shout out thing. Throw
Oh
it all.
yeah, the
Yeah.
spiel,
Throw it
sell
all out.
myself. So you can find me at RPGaymer. We have our website rpgamer.com. Instagram is Hey RPGamer. Gotta clear my throat really quickly. Also at Twitter and Discord and YouTube, all are Hey RPGamer. Do reviews and previews on video games on our YouTube channel. And then yeah, we just kind of do bro discussion podcasts released every second Monday if we're in season, but depending on when this releases or when people listen to it, we might be on our little break and taking a little, relaxation and whatnot and planning for the next season. So, but you guys never rest, so you wouldn't get that, right? There's no sleep for you guys.
No, unfortunately, and with the way Alex and I do it, I have to be careful how I schedule stuff because otherwise, I miss date night or something along those lines. There,
Oops.
yeah, I've only done it once, and the fact that I'm still alive is shocking to everybody. But if you do listen to our podcast, definitely go support these guys. Check them out on all of their platforms. Give them some good support. I've listened to several of season one, uh, it's great. It's definitely one I like to have when I'm driving or I'm just listening to a bunch of guys there. I know, I know, as doing our own podcast, sometimes it's difficult to get new listeners, but our community is really cool, so they should definitely check Patrick's group out. Uh, check them out. We're going to be having all of these links in this description, but we'll also put them on all of ours on Twitter and in Facebook, uh, for a couple weeks so you guys can get to know them as well.
I
Um,
like what you said there about the community thing too, because I really think that like all of the gaming podcasts succeed when we're all supporting each other because we all do something very, very different. Like you guys are really great about keeping people up on the latest news and whatnot, where, for our podcast in our second half, we always play some kind of like game show game to really just kind of like break the slowness of the discussion and really pick it up. So everyone's doing something different, and it's great that we all can just be like, "Yeah, let's just support each other."
oh yeah, believe it or not, Patrick, before we used to have a couple game shows. Oh my God, were
Oof.
they? Yeah, we had one where you had to, uh, where basically someone would come up with a game title, and it was 20 questions, and you had 20 questions to figure out what it was. That never ended well. What was the other one we did?
We call it the dating game, where you tried to guess the date of a particular game, like a release date,
Oh wow, okay,
just the year, and depending on how many years you were off, that was plus or minus points. Um,
good idea. I like that.
so yeah, then because two people will both answer, and then by the time it was done, you would see who was closest. Um, but yeah, that was probably my favorite game that we did. Also a game that we never really saw anywhere either. I think we probably didn't create it, but like I definitely haven't seen it on other things. But we haven't really done that anymore either since yeah, we used to record and stream or like record like 3 podcasts a night, and that was a lot.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
wow, wow, wow.
yeah, it's too many. But now we're more focused, and I think that's better for that. But yeah, this was fun time. Thank you for joining us, Patrick. It was really
Well,
nice
thank
Yeah,
to
thank you for having
hang
me. It
out.
was great.
I love that someone also loves Final Fantasy VI. I mean, that's not really hard to come by, but at the same time, it's cool to see someone so passionate and very knowledgeable about Final Fantasy VI as well as other games, Wild Arms, stuff like that. But yeah, it's awesome to see someone like that, especially here on this podcast. So, yeah, do we got have anything else, Ben?
No, no, but we got to tell you, Patrick, at the very end of every episode, we when we say, "Well, that's it," we each say, "Get at it." Like that's our catchphrase.
All
You, if
right.
you would like to, we were discussing before what you say while you're testing. You're more than welcome to say that or whatever you feel comfortable with.
You would like me to say get at it?
Yes,
is that what
I
you were
would
saying?
I would love it, but if you wanted to say, like, when you were testing, what was it?
Uh,
I remember you were like, "Don't make fun of me because I say this when I'm, like, testing." You can say
uh,
that. Is that I don't
no. We close out. We always close out with now go out there and get gaming. So I get it. Everybody has their own little closing thing.
Alrighty. Well, yeah, we have been going for quite a while, so yeah, get at it.
get at
Yep.
it.
Get at it.